Well, thank you for this opportunity to be invited. And I just heard about this 24 hours ago. And so in response to the lady, I think I'm going to be the least relevant presenter here today, in the sense that I really am a guest to your city. I've been here 22 times in the last 5 years. And I've really enjoyed getting to know the place and the people. And I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. And because the translation is a challenge, people will not understand me at all. So I'm going to keep my words brief and only show pictures. And the pictures are going to be about the new campus for the American University of Central Asia, which is a center on the periphery of this city. And I was thinking of this while I was listening to these earlier presenters, that I was reminded of a quote from a famous American architect who said that a city is a place where a child discovers what he or she will be when they grow up. And I always thought that to be a very inspirational idea of a city that kind of doesn't talk about economic growth, doesn't talk about social structure, but talks about an individual experience with and interacting with the place and with other people. And that, in that sense, a city is a place of learning and discovering and experiencing. And a university is a microcosm, a version of a city. And that's how the concept for the American University was conceived, moving from the center of the city out to the periphery. And there it is on the periphery, location-wise, and I think most people know pretty much where this spot is. And this is a version of the master plan that was conceived about 5 years ago for the campus. And the part that's under construction right now is the main building there shown in blue. But this 8-hectare area is eventually just sort of seen as a very dense, compact arrangement of people from various backgrounds coming together. And that it's small scale in terms of height, no more than 5 stories, 3 stories buildings that are reasonably close together. And that's an idea of a city where people are actually close together. And I'm from New York City, and coming here to Kyrgyzstan, which I must tell you, most of my friends and colleagues when I first came here did not know about this place. And it's a shame, because this place is actually, and I've really grown to love coming here and learning about this place. And I found it to be an inspiration. And I think talking about Bishkek as a place of inspiration, to this gentleman's earlier thing about the positive aspects, what makes a place inspirational is a question that I'm always looking for. And bringing together cultures, native cultures here, American culture, since the American University is to be a American style of education, and recognizing that cultures are merging together in a global era. We're no longer separate. Things are connected in interesting ways. When I first came to this campus, and they presently occupy the former Soviet office space in this very big, gray, scary building to me, I was imagining what it would be like to go inside. And I went inside and I was shocked, surprised, that this place was, the campus environment was abuzz and alive and energetic. And students and faculty mixing in conversation, and the hallways were showcases where students and faculty were presenting ideas of their academic and social and cultural programs. The hallways were like a streetscape of a market bazaar, a door-to-door of education, and kind of like searching on Google, but being actually in a physical space. And it was a place that brings together community and also celebrates the individual. And I think these are important attributes of any city, the individual and the community coming together, and both working hand in hand, and both being honored and respected. And the thing is that learning happens everywhere. And I think it's another way of thinking about the city of Bishkek, that whatever's happening in one area can happen in some other place. It's not about saying this is where the business area is, this is where people are living, this is where people are playing, this is where people are recreating. That it's all mixed together in the same way that today we think of learning spaces are places where they happen anywhere. This is a learning place that we're in right now. It's not a classroom, but it's still a place of learning. The other thing that I noticed here, and you have to forgive me if I'm making broad assumptions about this culture, but as an observer, that today's modern students are like modern nomads, and that equipped with modern technology, Wi-Fi, and a cup of chai, wherever they are, they feel that they're in command of their space. And they don't necessarily own the space that they're in, they roam space. But wherever they are at any given time, it feels like it's theirs. And this is an attribute I think a city could learn from, that any place that people are, it feels like it's theirs. The colors and textures, of this setting here I found to be absolutely interesting and breathtaking, as well as inspirational. The spices, the mountains, the felt fabrics, and even the colors of the roofs in metal, that there's a kind of vibrancy here. And that kind of vibrancy of the mountains and the colors became an inspiration for thinking about the shape of the building, and that is a rendering of the new campus, the main building, that borrows from the shades of the skies, the shape of the mountain, and the sort of shocking red moments, which in this case represent the cafes. And Bishkek was also a city of gardens. I learned when I first came here, I first came in the airport, and unfortunately it was very dark when I arrived. But you could see the lines of trees along the street coming to the city. And there was a kind of majesty of the treescape, and that the city is full of these parks and places of greenery. This is another, wonderful attribute of the city. And this notion of a garden, a private garden that the campus could have, which it doesn't have right now, but as a place of community, a place to bring people together. And here we are under construction in the last month or so. And this is actually yesterday. It won't be finished tomorrow, but within the next year. And I also want to just acknowledge, on preparing this project has been a tremendous team effort. And my partner architect here in Bishkek, Dragal Hansadalev, has been very, very helpful and instrumental and a great collaborator. And this project has been real effort from a large group of people from New York and my consultant teams, Bishkek consultant teams, Kyrgyz contracting, Turkish contracting companies. And I think Bishkek is an opportunity, is a place where welcoming different cultures and people to come together. On this construction site, at any given time, there are 4 languages being spoken. And when I show up, there's 5. Next. And the thing is, as the building announces itself, the letters of American University of Central Asia, AUCA, ALSA, is even expressed in the window treatment in the gymnasium. And I was also recently in Greece, which I hadn't been to in 20 years, and the ideas about buildings communicating and having a conversation with their landscape is a very old tradition, dating back to the Acropolis in Greece. And it's also interesting to note back, originally those buildings were really quite colorful and not just the white marbles that we see today. And the building is also not meant to be its own object, but actually something that frames the view. Again, the attribute of Bishkek is this sort of beautiful natural mountain setting and the valleys and the vistas, and that the building is is a frame to that view. And the future vision then of the entry is this entrance quad, which is meant to be this community welcome mat to the campus environment. And the entrance area has and the idea that this space can be for all kinds of festivals and activities, flexibility and celebrations at all seasons. And what makes AUCA is very much about this kind of celebrations of activities and even materials. The letters of the structural columns were faced in stones that came out of the ground during the excavation on the right. The plans of the building are kind of like a donut, a ring of spaces around a hollow center. And this is sort of then a diagram of the sort of 5 levels of academic and social activities, administrative, that surround a center space. And that center space is actually called a forum, which I think is sort of befitting sort of the description of this forum, and meant to be an interior quad, an interior living room for the campus, and a way of sense of orientation and bringing together people. And something very flexible. The image on the left is a rendering we did a few years ago. And then on the right side, in the shell of the building graduation was held last June. And I think this shows something about the culture here that we couldn't experience so much in New York City, is the idea of taking a place that isn't finished and making it your own. A city is something that's never finished, and making it your own is a constant activity that you want people to engage in. And this also center space is meant for various academic activities and social ones too, celebrating the various cultures that make up the campus. But on every day, it's a kind of gathering spot and a place to meet friends and a place to serendipitously or by chance run into friends and colleagues. And also a setting for doing stage performances or movies. And the idea is that no space is necessarily used by one group for any single purpose. So even the faculty offices are not arranged as a series of separate offices, but as a communal space, and there are 3 levels of them. And each faculty member has access to the entire building and has access to individual spaces to meet with students one-on-one, but enjoy a collective area. And in the center of it is a communal space for meeting and greeting and dining and casual conversation. And the idea that to break down the formality of learning, that learning is something that happens by inviting people to participate. And the building, this is just a diagram of it in a section, is this very active, compact space. While it is 18,000 square meters, in the United States, a kind of program for a university would be 4 times the size and probably take up a lot more space in different buildings. And the idea is to actually bring it all together and densely pack it. And the thing also cities enjoy, the advantages of density. A place like New York City, where I live, is extraordinarily dense, but it has a sense of energy. And this is something that I learned when I first visited this campus, that its density was a source of energy. So when you think about planning Bishkek, think about how to create areas of dense and mixed activities which will generate energy and attract more people. And light, and a center of gathering, and thinking about even the traditional yurt as an inspiration to me thinking about light bringing people together. And I just wanted to show just some images, really of just the building under construction and how it's going to be envisioned. So the raw space is turning into a dining hall. Keep going, and the kinds of colors and materials that bring together various kinds of spaces for teaching and learning and gathering. And the hallways are actually gathering and study spaces, so there are no hallways. And the gymnasium is also meant to be an active center that you walk through. And the classrooms were developed as flexible spaces as well, for formalized education or seminar type arrangements, or breaking out into various sessions, or the classroom spilling into the hallway. So boundaries between rooms are broken down. And that's another way of thinking about cities, that to break down the barriers between people are walking, where people are parking, where people are living and shopping. And there's also this thing about the building is very much about the earth. On the left is a picture of a rig, which is drilling a series of 150 wells for a geothermal heating and cooling system, which is evidently the first in this region. So that the idea of sustainability of a city in the future, where is energy going to be tapped from? And the opportunity to actually use the natural resources of the earth, and also on the right side, the natural resources of materials that are here locally. That locally grown and locally bred is another way of thinking about a city. That Bishkek, and I think this is an interesting characteristic, what are the intrinsic values and aspects and attributes that Bishkek already has, and how to maximize that, rather than trying to import and invent aspects about the city that are from other places. Celebrate what's here, and I think you'll have tremendous success. Thank you.
Спасибо большое.